Clock will call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance to the flag. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a motion right after that, and we amend this agenda,
Okay.
because it does not call for the election of officers.
Yeah, that's supposed to be in January.
It's supposed to be in January, so somewhere in there we should amend this to have election of officers.
All right. Any, we don't need a second.
Yeah.
Okay. For a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll change the agenda. Why don't we put it in here after correspondence?
Oh, the delightful place. Excellent.
Okay. Correspondence. Commissioner Fogarty, be so kind.
I will. Received from Security Director at Simsbury Board of Education to Officer Cruz, Officer Harrington, and Sergeant Simsbury. Thank you for working the Simsbury High School football game. They did a great job managing a large crowd with no issues and represented the agency well. Received from a resident for Officer Dunn. Thank you for your professionalism and care during an accident I was involved with. You had a calm and kind manner which helped in a stressful situation. Received from a resident for Officer Ball, Officer Bertel, and Sergeant Chase. Thank you for saving my life. That sounds pretty good. Received from Sue Lemke, Assistant Superintendent, for Officer Donalski and Sergeant Tebow. There was a student issue at the school which they assisted. They were excellent, caring, and compassionate. Received from Security Director at Simsbury Board of Education to PFC Cormier. Thank you for working the SHS football game and creating a neutral site. PFC Cormier was punctual, professional, and vigilant. As a result, there were no issues. He has a valuable relationship with the school community, and the staff was happy to see him again. Received from the Reach Foundation, Officer Arnold, Officer Bertel, Detective Devon, Officer Johnson, Detective May, Sergeant Simsbury, SRO Cushman, School Resource Officer. They are appreciative and humbled by the support of their program, Shop with a Cop. We appreciate you joining us in giving these children a holiday they won't forget. Received from a resident, Dispatcher Kenny, Officer Newton, Sergeant Lassard. The resident would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to everyone who helped locate her daughter. She was treated with patience, understanding, and compassion. SPD is in her prayers daily, and she is very thankful for all SPD does for the community. And finally, received from a resident for Officer Cushman. Thank you so much for your committed care and concern for our kids. My son is a better person for having known you.
Very nice, very good.
Okay, we have the minutes of November 6th. Everyone had a chance to look at the November 6th minute.
It was just one amendment.
Yeah, you made the amendment.
I'm sorry. My mistake. Okay, election of officers. Are there any nominations for the position of chairman?
Oh, I got one. What do you think? Oh, yeah, I'd like to nominate you, Mr. Chairman, for another term in that position. I'd like to nominate Commissioner Cosgrove to be chairman for this coming year, calendar year.
Second.
Okay, any other nomination?
I move they be closed.
Second.
Move the nominations be closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move that the election be held. All in favor?
Aye.
Of Commissioner Cosgrove.
Oh, yes, yes, indeed. Congratulations, Commissioner. That's what it was.
The record should note that it was unanimous, correct?
Correct.
So the next would be the nomination for the position of clerk. Are there any?
Do we like that, or does the chairman appoint the clerk? I don't recall whether
I don't either. Oh, just to be sure, let's elect one.
Good.
Okay. Oh, anybody have a nomination for clerk?
Who could be for that? Well, I know who could fill that role. Terry Fogarty is doing a great job, I think. I'd like to nominate Terry Fogarty for the position of clerk.
Okay. And I'll second that.
All right.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Commissioner Fogarty becoming the clerk, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, super.
And Mr. Chairman, just for people that may not be familiar with how we do it, normally the police commission elects, we're elected for a one-year term, but because there's always a little bit of a learning curve, it's assumed that those who are elected will serve for 2 terms. So next year, at this time, I think we'll be moving on to new, this is his 2nd year, correct?
Yes.
So that's just how it's been the tradition of the police commission, and it's always been bipartisan, as I understand it, or almost always.
Okay. The approval of the minutes, November 6th. So a motion to approve the November 6th minutes.
I move to approve the November 6th minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Approval of the minutes of the December 2nd regular meeting. I mean, it's December 9th.
So,
Second. All in favor of the approving the December 9th regular meeting minutes? Say
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they are also approved. Okay. Okay, public audience. Is there anyone who would like to speak in public audience? Nobody wants to speak in public audience. Old business. Does anyone have any old business?
I always look back at the minutes,
No old business?
And so we had the coyote presentation. I understand all the coyotes moved out of town since Officer English was here at ACO. And so he did a great job with those. No, I don't have
I think
any.
you probably have to entice them out with some food. Have we heard anything on any of the things that have been sent over to, I stumbled through this.
Board of Finance, Finance Director.
The people, forget it.
I haven't heard anything. Yeah.
Arbitration.
Oh,
Have you heard anything from any of those?
We have not heard back yet.
There's how many of those, 2?
There's 2 stemming from 1 incident, yes.
Next reports. The chairman has no report. The chief. You don't have no report.
Yes, we are still looking at the overtime. We still have had some significant overtime both with patrol and dispatch. We are hoping with the release of Connor Arnold to patrol from field training that will help with the amount of overtime. I'll jump right to personnel for now. He's expected to be released at the end of this week. He's done very well, so we'll be meeting with him on Friday. Corey Thomas You met last month. He is in his second week of training. He is doing well. Officer Bonacani has returned to work after a non-work related medical leave. Officer Robles is still out on medical leave for also a non-work related medical issue. And Dispatcher Zavidio has been out of work since early to mid-November due to a non-work related medical.
You should keep these people working, maybe they won't get hurt or something.
As far as negotiations go, they continue with the dispatch union, and arbitration is set for the police pension February 10th. There was arbitration in December for that, and just basically dates were set for down the road. And then as far as the budget goes, so I submitted what I was calling a static budget on January 3rd, only because they requested no improvements in services. So I submitted a static budget and then put in the service improvement requests, which added the personnel that we discussed about in option number 2. And so that all went in on separate forms, and that's included in your package just to show you where that was. And it also included capital requests for 4 particular items. The replacement of soft body armor. In the past, we've gone back and forth on how that is funded. Years ago, it was funded through the capital request. We have submitted paperwork for reimbursements for that, as we do when that always comes up. But there'll be at least 21 vests that need to be replaced. A second capital request is the replacement of the APHIS machine, which is the digital or electronic fingerprint machine that we have. We have 2 of those. They're roughly 8 years old now. The state is changing the system. The state is willing to provide us with 1 at no charge, which is what they did the last time around. We find it very useful to have a second one in our lobby for the 700 to 800 fingerprints that we do on an annual basis for securities and exchange requirements, for people who are adopting children, for the Board of Education. So we put in that request. A third request was for a utility terrain vehicle, which is like similar to a quad. Fire department has one of those. We feel that we could make use of one of those for a ton of the events that we have, the music festivals, access to the Greenway, not a full patrol, but a very limited patrol for the Greenway and for other areas. It may have been deemed useful yesterday in a rescue attempt that we did along with the fire department. They were able to use yours, and it may get us around a little bit more quickly.
You have to borrow theirs now?
No, they responded yesterday with theirs. So we do have one that was purchased for the region and is stored in Avon. I'm guessing that's 15 years old or so.
12, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not equipped with what we would like for any of our large events down at the music festival, which would be all the medical gear, the ability to transport, at least 3 members of either the police department or somebody else.
So in yesterday, if I can, Mr. Chairman, in yesterday's incident, that was a criminal matter?
It was not a criminal matter, no. It was a medical condition. Person went up out in the woods, and the fire department responded looking for it, and we actually were able to hold over personnel from A SWAT, so we had a lot of police personnel. We also had assistance from Bloomfield Police.
They call on their phone and looking for someone to come and help them or something?
Yeah, the person was suicidal.
But if it had been a criminal matter, or even in a suicide situation, to have firefighters responding to something that's really something the police ought to be responding to is really not the best practice at all.
Right.
You know, I've talked to enough cops in Hartford to know that they like to keep the fire department separate from those things so that they don't become perceived as trying to enforce law, which can be dangerous for them and ambulance personnel. So I think it's a good recommendation that we move forward with it.
And they're not equipped for most of those situations. And then the fourth item was the replacement of one of our variable message signs, the large LED signs that display messages. Ours is currently well past its age. And as far as a report, that's it.
Mr. Chairman, if I can. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So in the service improvement category, we have the deputy police position, which we've been asking for in the past, which we've not received, which I think would be very helpful, considering some of the issues we've had over the past couple of years. Have you had any feedback from them at all on this? And was it, I mean, they did receive this, they didn't refuse to take it?
No, they received everything. We have not met yet. That's the remainder of this month, where the town manager and finance director will meet with the department heads. And so I don't have my meeting yet. I believe it's at the end of January. All this stuff was due on January 3rd, so it was submitted.
So they'll review this in addition to the non-increase request that they were looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the non-increase request, I mean, there's definitely an increase in that. I think it's a 5% increase with contractual obligations, overtime, and some other categories that often naturally just go up.
Body cameras in here?
Body cameras are not in here yet until I have a further discussion with them. It was in the 6-year plan for using other sources for that. And so I don't believe they're going to look to do capital with that, but it is in the plan still for the budget.
So it's 6 years from now?
No, I'm sorry, they put it in the 6-year plan last year,
Okay.
to start this coming fiscal year that we're discussing.
So it'll be 5 years from now?
No, it'll start next year.
Oh, it'll start next year?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Are you responsible for looking for the additional funding, or is that something they'll look for? Like, are you looking for grants? How does?
Well, looking for grants would always be good, but as far as where they're going to use that, they have put it on their 6-year plan, so it wasn't required in my capital improvement request. I think they're going to go with the general fund for that, but I don't know exactly how they're funding all that. It is a large ticket item.
Okay, consolidated monthly reports.
Just, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just, again, I
Yeah,
just want
more.
to highlight, to be sure I understand. So, under the personnel's request, we've got 2 additional police officers, is that correct?
Yes, so there is a deputy chief of police, there's the professional standards lieutenant, 2 additional patrol officers, and then the civilian position.
Okay. Good, glad they were all in there.
Yes.
So it adds up to 5?
5, 4 sworn,
Okay.
1 not sworn.
And so even with these, would this bring us up to where we ought to be with respect to area communities in terms of per capita numbers of police officers? I don't think it does,
No,
but
I think we're just shy of that, and I have it right here. So that'll bring us just under, that would bring us to a ratio of about 1.68, and that would bring us to 42 officers, where the comparable towns is 1.76, and the region is 1.8.
that's the high.
That's the average.
What's the high? Do you have?
Oh, no, there's
No,
some
okay, so
that
it's all
are, there's some that
average.
are 3.2, and they're,
Okay.
The documentation you gave us had West Hartford at 2.1.
from West Hartford.
Yeah, that was kind of our local high.
Wilton has 2.4, Farmington 1.8, Newington 1.7, Rocky Hill 1.9, South Windsor 1.7, Windsor 1.8.
Is Wilton still a dry town, too? I think there are 2 in the state, Easton and Wilton. So. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, now consolidated monthly report. Anyone take a look at that and have any comments or concerns? Hearing none. We'll go to new business. Is there any new business?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, after our meeting last month, we discussed, or during our meeting last month, we discussed the same thing as we discussed earlier here with the budget and our need for command staff changes and also additions to the force itself. And I think the approach that we talked about taking, and I think we have here is a draft letter from the commission to the Board of Selectmen. Two subjects are in the letter. One is the staffing, and the fact that we are rapidly falling behind because we got two things going on. We're low to start with, and then our population is increasing, and we have 2,000 more apartments or something that are approved in the community, and as you have explained to us, it takes time to get police officers trained, competent on the street, and that if we don't start now, we're going to really be behind in a year or two. And so we are going to, through a letter form, stress that as one of the two things that we're very concerned about. The other is the activity that we've also talked about, and that is the negotiations that are ongoing now between the international representative of the Brotherhood of Police Officer, whatever the union specific name is, in the town manager's office, and the need for input and clarity, input from us and clarity on the direction that the town charter, the town code, and state statutes provide with regard to police commissions. And we are going to request also in that same letter to the Board of Selectmen that independent counsel be retained to review the language in the charter and those other state statutes and the town code, which are the code and the charter are somewhat in conflict in various parts with each other. Some of the language and the typos in the charter that make it difficult to understand. So we want to get some clarity quickly on that as to exactly what the role is of this commission versus the town staff, in particular the town manager's office. We will be reviewing a draft letter in the next few days, probably within a week or so. Hopefully we'll have some clarity that we can distribute amongst ourselves and actually send that letter out. So that's something that's under consideration now, which we will consider under the business in the appropriate manner as soon as we can, because we want to get that information into the hands of the Board of Selectmen as soon as possible for both items, both the budgetary items as well as the clarity on who's negotiating what with whom. So those are things that are underway right now. And, so we've got a draft letter that we can consider. And if we need to make changes, we will. And then we'll ask for approval from the commission, probably in a written manner, sometime soon.
Are there any other comments on this topic?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I think it's important that the Board of Selectmen certainly be aware of what our concerns are. We've expressed them a number of times over the years. I think putting together a formal letter to them explaining what our concerns are, especially with respect to the authority of the Simsbury Police Commission and the town manager, is very important. This is a police organization. People ought to know, where the commission stands, what our authority is, as well as the town manager. So I think the urgency of this is as Commissioner Long has pointed out, is important. We want to move it along quickly. And again, I think we need to reinforce in the letter that there are things that the town can do, that the police commission has asked for over the years, to ensure that we're going to maintain our CALIA status, as well as have adequate staffing and equipment available to Simsbury police officers. So I think putting this letter together is a good way to get it all down in one place, get it up to the Board of Selectmen through our liaison, let them take a look at it, and hopefully get a clear decision back that a number of us who have served on the commission have been seeking for a couple of years. So I agree with Commissioner Long. I think this is an important thing for us to do. And hopefully we'll have something for our next meeting for the commission to vote on that we can distribute.
Yeah. Is it possible to turn this to a draft to something that we have verbal agreement on with the commissioners, and then have a telephone meeting to approve it or not? Is that something that's doable?
I think it should be approved in a public meeting.
Yes.
Once we have a firm draft and with all the issues. And I know Commissioner Long and I are more than willing to work on this and get something back to the commission. But I think that kind of an issue ought to be done in a public meeting where we can go through it. So the public clearly understands where we're coming from on this.
Right, exactly. And if need be, the timing, we can have a special meeting.
Yeah. And I just, I'm not going to be here in February, so feel free to do it without me. If you know,
but if we can get it done before then,
we want to.
Oh, okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I'll be done in the next couple of weeks at the latest.
Okay.
Because the budget timing is important.
Your next meeting with the budget is at the end of the month, end of January, correct?
Yes, I believe it's 28.
Okay.
Right.
So maybe we should try to get something in their hands before the 28th.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I'm willing to work on it.
Is that the consensus?
Make myself
28.
You gotta stop traveling.
I'm going next week, man. Going for 10 days.
Something warm?
Anaheim. So it's a little warm.
So how does everybody look, you know, you think it's possible to get a quorum together to try to get this thing out before budget time? I know I can.
I'm around.
Okay.
We'll go to the 23rd.
Yeah, I'm around
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll make it
for
work.
February
Yes, I think we can make that work.
All right, thank you. Mr.
Okay, let's see. Is there any other new business? If not, I will entertain Commissioner Long's favor.
I would like at this time to move that we adjourn this meeting.
I would second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. The meeting is adjourned at 7:28 maybe.
Yeah, that looks good.